My friends, welcome back to the Smokey Mirror Podcast. This is the first episode of the year. I'm trying to do something a little bit different this year, and I really want to pick a target group to focus on. You know, I'm all about serving, but it's like, who am I serving? If I'm making it for everybody, am I really making it for, I'm really making it for no one. So this year, I think I'm going to focus the podcast on creatives, people who want to make something for the world, something for others, where it's not just you will be enjoying it, it'll be something for somebody else. And something that's near and dear to my heart, because growing up my whole life, I never considered myself creative. I was always just the athlete jock guy who was good at school, but I couldn't draw, I couldn't paint. I didn't think I was creative. And then after my experience teaching, I realized that a lot of the self-limiting beliefs that we have, we learn those along the way, and really we can reinvent ourselves if we just believe that we can do the things that we truly want to do. So once I started living my life based on the life I wanted to live, not predicated on money or what I think I should do, my life got a lot better. So my name is Jordan Jones. I started a brand called SKUT, which stands for Spreading Knowledge Using Tactics, and this is the show. Today I have on a creative, right?
Yes, of course.
I have a creative who has not only created really interesting blogs, really interesting content and videos on Reels, but it's all predicated on educating people on health, wellness. And I think as somebody who is creating, it's easy to forget about those things, your health. It's easy to overlook it and just kind of go with maybe things where you were raised or what you see on TV or social media. And so today I'm with Allison Christiani, and we're going to go into 5 topics around your health that you've probably never considered, but the purpose is to raise your awareness and your consciousness of it so that you can make better decisions in the future. So, Allie, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you back because the first time we did this, the people here at the Stu fucked up the recording. I'm not going to name names, but it wasn't my fault. So I appreciate you for being gracious enough to bless me again with your presence.
Of course.
And I really want to get into this work because I think what you put together is great. I really appreciate, I see the momentum that you've been coming in with this year, the content, the course for the stretching. Like, you have a lot going on. So I'm really excited to dive into that. And I really want you to just tell people, how did you get on this whole like wellness fitness journey?
Of course. So I was a D1 athlete for 4 years, but I was an athlete my whole life. So I guess wellness and fitness and nutrition were always somewhat ingrained in me. But even saying that, I wouldn't say I was the healthiest person when I was an athlete. There was a lot that I didn't know. But, you know, I've always had an altruist nature. So I've always wanted to help people. And it took me a long time to figure out what that looked like and how I wanted that to be. And of course, life will throw you events that will take you on a different course every single time until you find the thing that you're most passionate about or that you realize that your brain really is attracted to. Mm-hmm. And it's funny now that I read nutrition journals and everything every morning, and I'm so addicted to the biology of things, but I failed biology like my all through high school, college, everything. But I think the intent behind things as you get older becomes so much more apparent that things, you fall in love with things in a different way because your brain is so different. So I feel like everything I do creatively and just my business and brand has such a strong motivation behind it that it wakes me up every morning and it keeps me constantly searching for the things that I educate people on, because one of the premises of my brand, it can be summed up through the quote of Albert Einstein, who said, "Those who have the privilege to know have the duty to act." Mm-hmm. So I'm privileged to live here. I'm privileged to have access to the information that I have and to have the brain that I have that I feel like is able to make that content digestible for people and allows them to learn things that they didn't know about before. And of course, a strong motivation behind that is my mom, who has neuroendocrine tumors. So it's a particular type of cancer that affects the endocrine system and hormones. So a lot of what I talk about is hormone health, because I believe those chemical messengers in our body are so important and are really the catalyst for living a healthy life or living a diseased one. My brand name, Hail on Earth, came from the fact that I read this quote from the Environmental Protection Agency, who's in charge of giving information based on keeping humans healthy and nature healthy. And part of that is studying companies that create these chemicals that disease people. And they said that these companies place a monetary value on disease, impairments, and shortened lives, and weigh that against the benefits of keeping a chemical in use.
Wow.
So part of what I do is understand what that monetary value would be for them on my mother's life, on their mother's life, on their children, and if that really is worth the benefit of those chemicals.
I love it. It's like a little bit of investigative journaling in there as well. So you are a talented writer, so I think that's great. And I love hearing the motivation of wanting to help other people.
Yeah.
I found that people who really strive and achieve great things are because they're doing it for someone else besides themselves. I think when you're doing it for just you, it's not the same.
No.
It's not the same.
No, and I think it blocks creative flow.
Yeah.
Like I used to be kind of really into looking at other people's content, and I realized I just want to tell people what I know.
Right.
And I'm going to do it in whatever way I think is appealing and I think is an aesthetic, but not following a particular like route that most people take.
Mm-hmm. I think that's great.
Yeah.
So let's get into these topics because the first one is really a big one. Why I'm always tired and moody, because when I'm tired, I'm definitely a different person. And it takes a lot more conscious effort for me to rein myself in. Like, oh my God, stop being a dickhead to people just because you're sleepy, just because it's 7 a.m. Mm-hmm. So one thing that you really bring up is that, you know, most people know about macros, like your proteins and your fats and your carbohydrates, but we don't often think about micronutrients. Mm-hmm. And when I saw these stats that were talking about how much Americans are missing, it was crazy. So I'm just going to read some of these. 100% of Americans don't get enough potassium.
Which is interesting because bananas and apples are the two biggest fruits that Americans consume.
Right.
So you would think that potassium wouldn't be the first one, but it is.
That's so crazy. 94% don't get enough vitamin D, which I definitely believe, especially after the pandemic, everybody's inside.
Yeah.
92% don't get enough choline?
Yeah.
What is that?
A trace element.
Okay. 89% are low in vitamin E, 67% are low in vitamin K, 44% low in calcium, 43% low in vitamin A, 42% low in vitamin C. So clearly we're low in these vitamins, but is it like a lack of knowledge? What do you think?
It's a lack of a whole foods, plant-based diet. So a lot of people, for example, they think they can supplement themselves into a healthier lifestyle. So, you know, a lot of people, were scared during the pandemic and they heard that vitamin D is a huge deficiency. So they started just supplementing vitamin D, which is great. But they're doing it without, the knowledge of what goes on in their own bodies. So every single person is different. We are not an average of the whole, but the government and companies treat us like averages. Mm-hmm. So they tell us that our recommended daily allowance of a particular micro or macronutrient is based on these averages of weights of a female and a male, and they tell us this is what you need to get 100% of these particular vitamins and minerals and macros. And the truth is that we all metabolize things so differently that the only tell for you whether or not you're deficient in something is your own intuition and how you feel. Mm-hmm. So if you're waking up every morning, you can't make it to 2 p.m. without 5 shots of espresso. If you feel pains throughout your body, if you are constantly, snapping on people, like there's so many tells we have, but we're so not in touch with our bodies that we don't either care, or it's not a big enough thing for us to be like, oh, I need to finally look inside and look and see what my blood says, because blood work will be the greatest tell. You could be low in so many different random things, or your thyroid could be off, and then one simple switch is all you need to do, and all of a sudden you feel better.
So it really is just knowing your body instead of just going off the the general recommendations.
Yes.
Because I'll even see the back of a protein bar. I'll be like, oh, this is 40% of your protein. I'm like, it's only like 30 grams. Is that really 40%? Like, that's all I need?
No, exactly.
It seems really weird.
Mm-hmm.
And so what is I think you linked a website where you can get your blood work done?
Yes. So there are because a lot of people don't like going to the doctor. I don't like going to the doctor. I get frustrated.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of companies that will send you vials and will allow you to do like a thumb prick or something like that, which isn't as comprehensive as if you just, went to a doctor and asked to go through the whole list of thyroid, hormones, all the micronutrients, and ask for everything. And I mean, if you have insurance in America, I mean, even in Canada, they actually charge you for comprehensive blood panels, which is insane.
That is crazy.
Yeah, free healthcare. but you either go there and just ask for everything so you get a really good in-depth look, or you can go through the company, I believe is called Everlywell, and they can help you online to kind of bypass you having to go anywhere and do anything like that. Mm-hmm. But even when you get the results, what I don't know about these online companies is whether or not they go and tell you, because you just get the results and you get numbers and you don't know what it means. So one thing you could do is pay for something that I use called Inside Tracker, where it generates for you an idea of what you might be low in based on the numbers, or you hire someone like myself, a nutritionist, who will tell you what the numbers mean.
Nice. I like that. Yeah, hire Allie. You don't have to figure that out on your own. And then one other thing you pointed out was like the foods that we're eating are very lacking in the nutrients. So like we had to eat 8 oranges to get the same nutrients from like one that was grown like 60 years ago.
Yeah. It's we don't diversify the soil biome anymore in the world. It's not cost effective for most farmers, and it's just the lazy way of growing food. So because we don't mineralize the soil biome anymore, those plants aren't absorbing the minerals that we're lacking, so then we're not eating them. So essentially, to get this, the food is just created differently, and you have to source really organic, local fruits and vegetables to get close to the levels. But like I said, since we metabolize things differently, maybe you could eat only 2 oranges and you'll get enough vitamin C. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But you do have to focus so much more on eating an abundance of plants and a diverse amount of plants to hit most of the markers on micronutrients.
Mm-hmm. And so one of the words you said was eat organic and eat local.
Yes, eat local if you can. I know it's harder in countries in Canada, obviously, or Russia, it's like a tundra. So it's harder, and more expensive, but you're investing in your health is what I tell people. So.
And your health is wealth. And especially if you have a big goal or a big mission, you got to have energy. You got to be alive to do it. So you got to take care of yourself. Yeah,
I get really tired of hearing people working so hard to accomplish so much of their goals, and they're sick and they're coughing and they're not sleeping. And I can see like the aging is just your body's process of getting closer to death. So that's just what it is.
Yeah.
Like if you look like you're aging, people are so aesthetically obsessed that they're like, oh my gosh, I have fine lines, so I'm ugly. And it's like, no, your body is just getting closer to dying.
Like, you're not ugly, you're dying.
Yeah.
Yikes.
That's just it's showing up externally what's happening internally. So your organs are getting older, and so your face is showing that.
Yikes. Okay, so the first tips we're learning: pay attention to your micronutrients. Eat local. You got to eat more plants.
Yeah.
And get some vitamins in your diet. Mm-hmm. That's great. So, and pay attention to how you're feeling, because that could also indicate what you need to eat too.
100%.
Nice. All right, so let's switch over to the immune system. Mm-hmm. That's something that's been a hot topic in the past couple years. Why do you think it's such a taboo to talk about natural immunity these days?
Because we're programmed to believe that we can pharmaceutically take a pill and solve all of our problems. So it's hard for people to grasp the idea that just because they're not eating a particular fruit or vegetable, that's why they're sick. It's like, oh no, like it doesn't make sense.
It's too easy, right?
I don't know. It's too easy. It's like the brain is so programmed to be solution based that they can't accept a simple solution to what they think is a complex problem. And that's a lot of what I do. It's like I'll look at a food diary and I'll see what they're eating and I'll be like, oh my gosh, like, of course you're tired and like you have no energy and you feel this way. And I just like throw even just a green smoothie in the morning on them and they're like, oh my gosh, I feel amazing. And I'm like, yeah. Oh yes, of course. Like that makes sense. So immunity is, like we talked about before, vitamin D, and then a lot of other trace elements that no one really thinks about or maybe knows about. So what I talked about in that particular blog is zinc. And zinc is this really powerful element that, again, we used to be able to get through the foods we eat or the plants we eat. And now it's just a little bit more difficult. So it's also found in meat, though. So I'm a vegan, so I have to be more precautious about making sure I'm getting my zinc from like different plant sources. But I also personally supplement because it is difficult for vegans and vegetarians. So I would suggest a supplement for people who don't eat meat because it is such an important immune booster. It stimulates our natural killer cells, which are our first line of defense, which means as soon as bacteria enters our body, we want those guys already created and ready to go and fight the inflammation. And then it also boosts a particular immune cell called neutrophils, which also just support our natural immunity. And so I promise all of you who get sick around December, January, and inflamed and phlegmy is because you're probably deficient in zinc.
And I was literally blowing my nose on the way over here. So I might need to get my zinc levels up. It's crazy because you never, like zinc, when I was reading, I was like, wow, like I never think about that ever.
I know.
Is that, you said trace elements a couple of times. What exactly does that mean? Like a trace element?
It's like a type of mineral. So we say vitamins and minerals. So it's a particular type of mineral.
Okay.
Yeah.
So once it gets to get about like the winter time when you're starting to get a little stuffy, pay attention to your zinc.
Yeah.
And so pumpkin seeds, you can eat cashews. I love cashews. Baked beans, love baked beans. Dark chocolate, I love chocolate.
Yeah.
Dark chocolate is like a magical, healthy fruit. Like, isn't chocolate fruit?
Yeah, the cocoa beans or cacao beans, I guess. It's also really high in magnesium, which is also really good for immune system.
They say red wine and dark chocolate is like good for you. Is that?
We can't go on a tangent about wine right now.
Okay, we can't. But wait, this is a tangent, a really brief one. I saw somebody that said red wine is like good for your gut. Is that possible? It's alcohol, right? It can't possibly be good.
Okay, really, I'm not going to go too crazy about this, but wine companies are one of the companies I plan to expose. Expose. My little slogan, because I like to play on my brand name, which is Hail on Earth, is to give them hail. And that's part of my mission, is giving these companies just a little bit of hell.
Love it.
If you want to drink wine, only drink organic, natural wine. And that means buying expensive wines from Whole Foods if you'd like to drink wine. If you want to drink, don't drink wine, drink gin, vodka, I don't care, tequila.
Really? Hard liquor over the...
Wine companies in America, in a synopsis way, the FDA allows a ridiculous amount of additives and chemicals that Canada and the European Union have banned. They do not exist there. They are allowed in our wines here. They are filled with these fillers and additives that help with shelf stability. Everything is about money and a bunch of other just garbage that I believe is being exposed. Recent studies, so this is really brand new information for the most part, one of the leading causes of cancer. Wow. So it's like very, very serious for me, this wine company.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. You heard it here first. If that was the first time you heard that, share it with somebody, because I know you got a wine drinker in your life. Share them with this and say, hey, organic only, please. Yes. I care about your life.
Natural, too.
Natural.
Not just organic. Yeah.
Perfect.
I know, it's important.
It is important. And then last thing on the zinc is you can actually increase your absorption with garlic and onions?
Yeah, garlic, onions, and pairing it with a protein. So, for example, like a vegan way to do it is I like to make my homemade pasta sauces. So I'll make it with cashews and I'll soak them, throw them in a blender with like garlic and onions just for flavor, and then add anything you want. So you can make like a pesto by putting basil in there, a little bit of water, blend it, and then use I use Banza as the brand I like for the chickpea pasta. So now you have cashews with zinc, you have garlic and onion to boost absorption, and you have protein from the Banza pasta. So it's like a zinc little cocktail pasta.
And that right there is going to keep you not sniffly the whole flu season. So that's lit. All right, great. So we got our immune system right. Now we need to reverse that aging, because now we know that when we're aging, we're dying. We want to make that as slow as possible, right?
Yeah.
So one thing you brought up was glucose, and I never think about glucose. This is another thing that's just totally out of my consciousness. I'm not thinking about it at all.
Yeah, if you don't have type 2 diabetes, you don't really
think about it, right? And yeah, like I do have some diabetics in my family, but even then I just hear about insulin, and I guess their sugar levels, but I guess that's what glucose really is.
So many people, they love using the word, just sugar. And I'm like, okay, that's such a blanket term. We're not talking about sugar. We're talking about glucose.
It's different, goddammit.
Yeah, it's the same, but it's just different when we're talking about it chemically, I guess, in the body. So I love glucose, though. I love talking about it.
Okay, so what is it?
So when we eat, our body, the way that we move, everything we do is based on energy. So energy, as we know, is created in the battery of our body, which is the mitochondria that exists in all of our cells, right? So the mitochondria will take the glucose and it will convert it to something called ATP, which supplies us with the energy by which we do everything. Me just looking at you requires energy. Me moving my everything requires energy, which is why when people tell me like it's 6 p.m. and they're like, I haven't eaten today, I'm like, okay, so you're okay with aging and like dying. Like, what are you talking about? This is why you don't have energy. Like, you need to eat. I'd rather you eat 10 meals a day than not eat. So when we eat, just carbohydrates are our main source of energy. So it's my other problem, beef with people who only eat protein. I'm like, how are you getting your energy?
Right.
So when we eat the carbohydrates, what happens is that it digests in our body and glucose just goes and floods our bloodstream. So if we eat a extremely sweet food or, just a bunch of bread, we are like filling our body with glucose. It is running rampant through our bloodstream. They're going crazy. And as soon as glucose enters our bloodstream, the hormone insulin is released by the pancreas. And insulin acts like the club security guard who will like allow you into the club. So insulin will grab onto you, the glucose molecule, and be like, come with me, knock on the door of the cell, and be like, cell, are you ready to accept this glucose for some energy? Come on in. So it has to open the door to the cell, insulin does, which is why, type 2 diabetics, what ends up happening is that door either gets clogged, so then you just have glucose and insulin running through the body, which causes, all types of problems. Or they eat so much, obesity is obviously related to type 2 diabetes because you eat so many carbs and sugars that eventually the pancreas is like, all right, I've done this so many times before. I'm not making any more insulin.
Like I'm tired, bro.
I keep trying to make insulin, knocking on the door. It's not opening. I'm over it. So that leads to the glucose spikes. And so what most people don't know, though, is that we all experience glucose spikes, especially if we aren't aware of it, which is also contributing to that crash. So if you eat a croissant in the morning with a coffee with 10 sugars and a creamer, your glucose is like spiking in your bloodstream and it's just running around and it's causing a whole bunch of problems.
So is that why you feel like a burst of energy at first and then you crash later?
Crash later, yeah. Because, you're just like, it's supposed to, when you slow release the glucose, it allows the energy to continue. But if you just spike it with a bunch of carbs at one time without doing the tips that we can go over later, it's just giving you that burst of energy and then it disappears. Whereas if you slow the glucose spike to where it's like entering your body slowly, then it is much more beneficial for that long-term energy.
So one thing that was kind of scary when I was reading this post was the glycation.
I love that word, glycation.
Glycation. So that's what happens when you're like cooking meat, right?
Yeah.
And so that happens when you get a big spike?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it's crazy. So the glucose molecules, they're running around your bloodstream going crazy, and they run into each other. And so as they run into each other is when they cause that glycating effect, and which obviously causes aging and all types of terrible things.
Yikes. So just eating too much, like, is this like sugary stuff? Anything with carbs? Like just
Anything with carbs. So you eat, like I said, a donut in the morning, and then you eat like pasta for lunch, and then you eat like some sort of rice and pair it with like little to nothing, then you're causing just glucose spike. So we all go through them every day, and there's just like little things you can do to fix it.
And so one of those things was to eat things in a different order?
Yeah, so it's not as serious as like it sounds, I guess. Like,
it sounds scary.
Like,
oh my God, glycation.
yeah. So, I mean, just being aware of the types of carbs that you eat, I would say is like the first step. So obviously, you know, you shouldn't be eating bread 5 times a day or pasta 5 times a day. Just being aware that if you eat enough vegetables, or even like I said earlier, eating a green smoothie in the morning, if you're having that veggie plant to start your morning, what vegetables contain is the fiber, and the fiber creates like this mesh in your gut that allows like the glucose to go through the mesh more slowly. So imagine like water going through a net or whatever, you know, it can go through it slowly than if there was no net there. And so that's the idea of eating veggies first. So if you know you're about to eat like a chocolate cake, just eating like, a few carrot sticks before getting that fiber mesh will help slow that glucose spike by a lot. Like these were studied extensively, like just eating a few vegetables before you eat something really sugary or carb heavy, or pairing that particular carb with protein, fat, or fiber would be the perfect way to slow that glucose spike down.
See, I always knew that intuitively, because I'd be like, all right, let me just eat a little bit of lettuce or some sort of vegetable before I eat this plate of chocolate chip cookies. I knew it like intuitively. There has to be something.
Yeah, if you go to eat, try not to get like the bread rolls before you eat.
And they always bring the bread rolls out first. They always bring out the bread first. They don't give you a salad first.
I know.
They're setting you up for failure. That's crazy. So another thing is savory, not sweet for breakfast.
Yes. So this was really interesting for me too, because I used to, which is fine. It's fine to eat oats in the morning. But when I read this, my brain was like, oh my gosh, I need more protein in the morning. But it's okay to eat oats. Just don't, you know, some people add maple syrup to it, or, you know, something sugary. And by the way, this also doesn't apply to fructose. So fruit is okay to have in the morning. So some people get confused with that. Just pairing the oats with like a nut butter or something like that will, again, that's the fat, will slow down the glucose spike. But having a breakfast based on protein is really important. So eggs with avocado, or like for vegans like me, I'll make, I have a lot of different weird things, chickpea flour, eggs.
Wow.
Which I know is like, I'm like trying to explain that properly, but it tastes really good. Or like a protein smoothie, and making sure I get that protein, fat, fiber. That's what we're looking for, that pair.
Okay.
PFF.
So this is kind of unrelated, but what about fasting? Because we're talking about eating and we're talking about glucose.
Yeah.
Is there any benefit to fasting? Because I feel like I've read a lot of benefits, but it seems like you're not a big fan.
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about fasting. It's too much information, and it's all conflicting. So I would always prefer people to eat breakfast. I think that there's a reason why people say it's the most important meal of the day. I think that there's studies related to men over 40 years old where it helps a lot with some sort of functions in their body by intermittent fasting, but in my brain, it'll never just make sense. It'll never make sense. Like, I just think that we need food for survival, and so restricting isn't, I don't think, good for mental health. I think that starving yourself in the morning, who really wakes up and is like, I want to do that. Like, I just don't think it's healthy. So I'm kind of more opposed to it. Nice.
Well, I'm really interested to see what people think, because I know that if I put a clip up like that, people are going to be debating it hotly in the comments. So we might have another 1 million view reel inbound based on that, because people turn into experts when you put a video on YouTube. Yeah. All right, that's cool though. So if we take control of our glucose, reduce inflammation, and reduce process of aging, aka dying, and just more energy.
More energy, and it really helps because insulin is a hormone, and I love hormones. We're all about hormone balance. So by balancing that hormone, it's really important, especially for women. Because, for example, during a glucose spike, it sends signals to women's bodies to create more testosterone, which is why something like PCOS has been skyrocketing over the last 20 years.
What's PCOS?
Polycystic ovarian syndrome. So it sits on women's ovaries, which doesn't necessarily have a specific symptom. It's like this long list of symptoms.
Like gradual.
Yeah, hair loss, stress, hair on the face, pain. It's so many things, and it obviously causes infertility. So it's a huge problem now.
Wow. And that's all just from getting your glucose under control.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're learning a lot on this pod. I love it. I love it. So we already been over wine is dangerous. Be careful. Now we're getting into the shit in your car is killing you. The air fresheners, the sprays, the little trees, which we all know and love. Everybody knows I love my little trees.
Oh my God,
the
my
black
Uber driver
eyes.
here had a tree.
I remember you said so. I think you said something in there like, oh my God, if I have to sit in this car for 30 minutes, I'd rather take public transportation.
No, I'm so serious too. I was so stressed, but I was like, it's fine.
So, like, what exactly, like, what's killing us? I guess we touched on it earlier. It's the chemicals, right?
It's the chemicals, and specifically fragrance. I can't say that with enough emphasis. I hate fragrance, and I'm coming for all you companies that use fragrance.
Give them hell. Give them hell.
Fragrance is a synthetic chemical created in a lab that plays on the fact that they think that humans, we've become so addicted to synthetic smells, and we don't even know it yet. They've just been spraying them around us for so long. They're in that freaking Tide you use and sleep on at night, getting all over your skin. It's in your deodorant, in your face cream, your shampoo. You know, men, you guys think you need to smell good. So my little brother, Isaac, and your sprays, and he'll come around me and I'm like, I'm dying. Like, why are you killing me? It's like not okay. I'll leave a room and I pick my battles, and my partner always gives me like the eye, like, don't say anything, because he'll know when someone walks in a room and he can smell it too, and then he'll look at me because I'll be like, oh my gosh, like, please, I'd rather smell your BO, I promise you.
Oh my God.
Candles, just all the things have this fragrance in them, and it just so happens that not only is fragrance in these little car tree things, but what are they called? I don't even know. We need to find the brand.
I think they're called little trees.
Give me the company.
I feel like they're called little trees. I don't know the exact what the company's called. It's probably something like,
tell me the company.
Pharmaceutical Industries, Biotech Incorporated, or some shit.
Yeah, but yeah, so they have a bunch of other stuff that can be found in paints and paint thinners and pesticides, things like toluenes and phtalates, and just a bunch of crap that is literally the same and equivalent to smoking cigarettes. Like if you were smoking a cigarette and I was just sitting here, and people just love to only harp on the fact that, oh, cigarettes are bad. Like, no, babe,
there's
the
more.
Little tree and everything. Yeah,
Oh
like
my God.
way more too. This for everything all at once.
And that's crazy. I saw that in your post. It said sitting in a car for 30 minutes with a car air freshener is the equivalent to sitting in a car and inhaling the smoke of someone smoking cigarettes.
Yes, Febreze. Febreze, you're another one.
That has big implications for like newborn babies and stuff too, because you know you're riding with your kid in the car, you're not thinking about that air freshener.
Children's safety hormonally has become a big thing for me too, because especially going through puberty and just babies in general, all our hormones are being developed. Everything is being slowly created in the body, and when we throw these they're called endocrine disrupting chemicals, so EDCs, and it's all of the chemicals we've talked about today. They disrupt those hormones, like they cause puberty to go out of whack. And that's why, again, we have these heightened cases of autism, ADHD, all these kids have anxiety and mental health disorders, because all of that relates to our hormones, and our hormones are being disrupted. So it's really important for children and the food they eat, all of the things that they have healthy, happy hormones.
So most of these chemicals are coming from petroleum, which makes a lot of sense because big oil is a huge industry. I know they're dominating shit.
Right.
So I feel like that definitely plays a part. Like industry, capitalism, where the money is, definitely plays a part in all of this.
It's all about money. They're shelf stabilizers, they're fillers. Like, why would you create a product that could die on the shelf in a few days? That's a waste of money in their eyes. Like I said, it's the monetary value is placed on the impairments, diseases, and shortened lives.
The healthcare system is, and then we have to pay for healthcare. So it's like, we're going to get you sick. And then, all right, well, we make money off you getting sick. Now we're making money off of healing you, but really we're just putting more chemicals in you. We're not even telling you how to heal.
It's a very smart plan.
Yikes. So that's why we need to take control of our health and not just leave it up to chance. We don't want to wait until we get to be 50, 60 years old, start seeing the result of a lifetime of making poor decisions, being exposed to chemicals, and now we're like, oh my God, what happened?
That's the most important thing you could say. People our age, especially in their 20s, they're like, oh no, I can everything you do now sets you up for later. And until maybe you've had to go through, what myself and tons of people have to go through, where you have to watch your parents suffer or watch people older than you suffer and, just have to go through literal hell on earth. Like, I don't know if you'll understand it at the same capacity. Like, you have to make smart decisions now. They are what set you up later.
Got to. If you're out there creating an album or a Oscar-winning movie, right? You win Oscars for movies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you might as well create a healthy life for yourself, too.
Yeah.
Have a nice, healthy body for yourself in 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
All right. So we're chugging along. This is the last thing I really want to touch on. Something I had never heard of in my life. Something called the vagus nerve, right? Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah.
Sweet. So it's a cranial nerve?
Yeah. So it starts in the brain and it goes all the way down.
It goes through like our whole body.
Our whole body, yeah.
Wow. And so it controls our parasympathetic nervous system. Let's go. Hey, see, I'm learning a lot. That's why you need to tune into Ellie's blog, because you learn so much. I feel like a freaking neuroscientist. So what is the importance of this vagus nerve? Like, what key does it hold?
Well, like you said, it's what turns on our PSN. So you can say it like that. You don't have to say
PSN. Okay. That's the cool way to say it. I'm like, it's parasympathetic.
Yeah, that's the acronym.
PSN.
So there's two parts to the nervous system. So the PSN and then the sympathetic, they're the opposites. So the nervous system obviously is what controls our feelings, our emotionals, and they send signals throughout the body that tells the body to do certain actions. So when our sympathetic nervous system is turned on and it's more heightened and not imbalanced with the PSN, we are living it in a constantly high cortisol stressed body. So cortisol is a stress hormone. So we're stressed, we're anxious, we wake up in the morning and we just start our day, we're just running cortisol heavy. And obviously that has huge implications for the body. We don't digest food properly, we cause inflammation and aging, and we just don't want to live fight or flight the entire time. But we need the sympathetic nervous system because obviously if a bear runs up on us, we need to think quickly, turn off digestion, all energy towards how are we getting out of the situation. So it's an important evolutionary process. But the parasympathetic nervous system is what helps us feel calm and relaxed and mental clarity and focused, and allows us to be creative. Because when we're in a space where we're relaxed and our brain chatter has stopped is when I think we can really thrive creatively.
Exactly.
So a lot of the ways that we can support the vagus nerve is through things like yoga and meditation and breath work and cold water therapy, things that allow us to zen out, I guess, is the kind of word for that. So it's called vagal toning because we want to strengthen that nerve that runs from our brain all the way down and sends the signals to the parasympathetic nervous system to turn on and take over and allow us to feel calm even in potentially stressful situations.
That's one thing I learned from my homie Joe Dispenza was most people are living in stress.
Yeah.
Like you're living in survival mode. Like we have our fight or flight system turned on all the time. We don't even know that it's on, you know? And so you can't really create things and like look objectively on what you're doing because you're kind of in this like hive mind. Like I need to, you know, argue with my boss, or I need to sell this product. I need to make this money. I need to do whatever. And we can't take a step back and have a really holistic way of viewing the world, what we're doing. And I think if we can take control of that and get into a space where we feel relaxed, that's when you can kind of download information and be your truly creative self.
Some people fear the calm. They like fear, which is why meditation is so difficult for people, because it forces them to go inward and sit with themselves and their body and actually become aware of living. And most people prefer to live with the blinders on and just to go, go, go. So they don't have to live with that, what is an underlying fear of, you know, what we're doing to ourselves, our body, how we're treating people, which can only be accessed once you go inward. So going inward is very scary for people.
Yeah, I definitely can vouch for that, because it's like when things scare me, your natural tendency is to shy away from it and avoid it.
Yeah.
And one thing I've been really practicing on doing is when something is bothering me, or I'm all of a sudden I feel scared or anxious about it, I try to lean into it to figure out what's really causing me that discomfort. Like, is it like, why am I feeling anxiety about having this conversation, or picking up the phone and like calling this person and asking getting some information that I really need? Like, why am I feeling this way? You know?
Yeah.
And I think before I got used to that, I would just kind of ignore it, rationalize on why I don't need to do that right now, or maybe I do eventually make the call, but I'm kind of timid, or I'm doing things that might make it easier for me to not feel some kind of way. It's just really weird. But I say all that to say it's really important to lean in when you feel discomfort and find the root of it, rather than just trying to escape, focusing on maybe your work or anything else that can take you out of that introspection. Yeah,
the present moment.
That's all we got.
Yeah. One of the things that really helps you with that too is, so breathing is unconscious, right? We're not going through the day being like, okay, inhale, exhale. So that's part of our autonomous nervous system. But the best way to turn on your PSN is by consciously taking a breath. So many people don't like consciously take a moment, and just literally it can be just one breath. Inhale big and exhale big. And that will actually bring you back to the present moment, and it will literally stimulate the vagus nerve to tell the body to relax and stop and everything.
Conscious breathing, that's a tip you can do. Just one good deep breath in
and exhale out.
Nice. So I know I was about to drop somebody else's breathing thing, but I want to talk about yours instead. Do you have I don't know if it's maybe a video or any information where people could do like a little mini meditation or something like that guided with you?
Yeah, I just started posting guided meditations on my YouTube channel.
Nice.
So I have those along with yoga practices that I do include breath work in some of those practices as well. But you know, other than that, if you're interested in breath work, I'll always suggest Wim Hof.
I was going to drop Wim Hof, but I'm like, you know what? Let me go ahead and promote who I have on the podcast. But I do like Wim Hof.
Yeah.
It's kind of easy. And he's like
it's like 10 minutes of your day.
10 minutes of your day, that's it.
Yeah.
And you really do feel a difference.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy. Like breathing from like your like stomach. Yeah. And like, wow, you just feel so much lighter.
Oh, for sure.
Afterwards.
Yeah, it's the natural way of breathing. We breathe from our chest as we get older. But if you watch a baby, his belly goes up and his belly goes down.
I've been starting to do that a lot more. Less from the chest, more from the belly.
Yeah.
It seems like kind of counterintuitive. Like, wait, my lungs are up here. Why am I breathing down there? Yeah. But no, it does make a difference. So yeah, this is a wake up call. You got to pay attention to your body if you're trying to create anything. You cannot be the fullest, best creative if your body is full of shit. Literally full of shit. You got to take care of it, and you got to be conscious of the things you put in your body too, because at the end of the day, your body uses what you eat to make you. So you literally are what you eat. It becomes part of your body, becomes part of your skin, your biggest organ. So it's really important. As we wrap up, Allie, I would love to know, I was going to ask that question, but I haven't come up with it yet. So instead, Instead, I really just want to know, where can people find you? What do you have coming up? Promo.
Yes. Okay. So you can find me. My personal Instagram is Allison Christiani, and that's spelled ALLISUN, and then Christian, like the religion, with an I at the end. And my business is Give Them Hale, HALE, and there's an underscore because some girl named Haley has my username.
Damn it, Haley.
And I need it back. So there's an underscore at the end of Give Them Hale, and it's the same on TikTok. It's, Hale on Earth is my Instagram underscore, and Give Them Hale underscore is my TikTok. My YouTube, you can find on my personal Instagram if you click the link in my bio, I have all the links to my TikTok, Pinterest, and my YouTube channel. But in terms of things coming up, I really gotten into a flow of, just spreading information in any way possible. But one of my favorite ways now is direct communication. And I just feel like I have a unique way of explaining the body and why it's important. And I get a lot of that from one of my mentors or gurus, which is Dr. Huberman.
Andrew Huberman?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Huberman Labs. Yeah.
I like Huberman a lot.
Yeah. If you guys another podcast outside of this one, Huberman Labs is really, really amazing.
He's pretty good.
And I love incorporating science in everything that I say, because I think science and spirituality are directly linked, and they're the same thing. So I'm just really into making content. I'll continue to make meditations and yoga free available on my YouTube channel. And I just...
What the hell? I have an alarm going for.
Yeah, I'll just, my content is my passion right now. My clients, if you want to work with me one-on-one in health coaching, I have availability still open for February. So meal planning, lifestyle changes, all that type of stuff. If you want to feel better, just reach out to me.
I love it. Yeah, don't bother, getting on Google just to ask Allie.
Yeah, and my DMs are always open for questions. Like, I just
always open.
Yeah, I love helping people.
I love it. Allie, you have a great spirit of helping people, educating people. You're really doing God's work. I appreciate you for coming back on the podcast, joining me, and you made it tailored to creatives too. So you're on brand for this year. Smokey Mirror Podcast. We're going up. Shout out to Allie. Everybody follow her. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Bye.